Um, Sean, Liz, thank you so much for the chance to chat with you. I really appreciate it. Um, Cold is chilling. To use a bad pun to get us started. Now that we got our Mr. Freeze joke out of the way, but
Very good, very good. I see what you did there.
congratulations on the film. And Sean, I hear you've been nominated for Best Actor at Blood in the Snow. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you very much. Liz knows already, but I feel very stunned. I'm still like processing. What does that mean? What does that like? Yeah, I'm very happy. I feel honored and humbled. But just working on the film that Liz wrote and directed was an award in and of itself because I just love being on that set. I love being part of telling this story. So, but this is like a little cherry on top or icing on the cake or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I'm like, what? So I don't know. Ask me again in 2 weeks. I might have a different answer. But thank you very kindly.
Well, it really is. It's well deserved. The film is great, and it requires a lot in the performances for a short. Absolutely. Um, Liz, where did the film come from? What is it about this story? Where did Cold begin?
Oof. Well, uh, I guess I have to kind of bare my soul for a second to answer that question. I had what I look back on now, I realize was a mental health crisis
Mm.
in the February before we shot, actually. So just a couple of months before we made the film. Um, there was a 2 week period where I physically couldn't get warm. I don't know if there was a circulation thing going on or something. And I was also incredibly depressed. It's a February thing. There's seasonal affective stuff happening there, and the world felt like it was ending. And I mean, it might be. And I frequently think in pictures, and I had this moment of, oh my God, what if I'm dead? What would that look like? And then all of a sudden, I had a little window went like in my brain, and there was a little bit of light coming through that window. And then I started writing the story. So it was very much a lifeline story and a way to take a feeling that I couldn't get my hands around while I was experiencing it and make it into something that I could look at in front of me and thereby remove myself from the sensation of feeling like I was drowning and coming to pieces and all of that. So yeah, that's kind of the origin story. This film is very much an invitation to the audience to come into my brain and see what's going on in here or what was going on in there. So it's a very every film is a naked experience. When you share it with the world, it's very vulnerable and like, here, this is what I made. Look at what I made. And this one in particular is a very vulnerable film to share with the world.
It feels like it. It feels like a very personal experience, just from script to screen. Um, because this character. I mean, you take this idea of just being cold, but it goes so much deeper than that, especially as the film unravels. And in some ways it's quite disturbing, but not in the way that she's cold. It's more disturbing to see the world around her
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Uh,
Well, it's that sensation. It's meant to be a visual representation of a feeling, right? I mean, all film is. But this literal deconstruction of her body and what would happen if no one acknowledged that there was something catastrophically wrong with you. And my hope was kind of to put the audience in Jane's spot to to foster empathy for her position.
eh, and I'm glad you say that, because even though we're on the outside of Jane, we are still seeing the world through her perspective. So, Sean, with um, your character is genuine. He's loving, but still feels disconnected. And I was just wondering, how did you feel about your character in relation to Jane in this film? Like, what do you think about those interactions?
Um, Well, pre-shooting, obviously, Liz and I had a lot of conversations about the story as a whole and the film itself and my character. And since Liz delved into her personal sort of experience a little bit when she was talking about how she came to like the film, I'm going to delve into my personal life experience as well. I lost my dad because of brain tumor and complications afterwards when I was 31. So that was like exactly 20 years ago this year. So 2003. And post surgery, which was successful but dangerous, I was taking him to every single doctor's appointment with like oncologists and his brain surgeons and all pretty much every medical appointment. And time in and time out, I remember feeling very helpless. Like there's so much that I need to learn and so little I know. And this is my dad that I'm trying to, be helpful to. And so that kind of feeling, I was able to sort of like dip into that life experience a little bit, so to speak. And just, trying to help my wife who's going through this process, whether like the audience knows or not. Like I'm just trying to be there for her, but then like nothing seems to be enough. So, and I think when a subject matter raises more questions, then I think it's a really good storytelling. So for me, as an actor portraying the character as a part of the story, is like, what does it mean to be disconnected from what you're feeling in your head and from your physical experience? Like how disconcerting and alienating that could be. Let alone like with loved ones around you, like friends or family, right? Like within yourself, you're going through like, can I swear on this interview? No,
Go ahead.
really? Yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you can say like, what the fuck is happening to me, right? And that disconnect is just, so I've I've battled some bouts of depression myself in the past, so. And I'm not shy to talk about it because I think there's nothing to hide about it. Like, it's not so. And I feel like I feel stronger having experienced it and overcome that to find a little sliver of hope in any situation. So yeah, so that's how I sort of approach the character and the story. It's kind of really heartbreaking if you think about it. Like if you think below the surface level, it's like, am I not enough? Like, but then from the outside, when you look at Theo, like that moment in the film when he's trying to be intimate with Melanie's character, like he's kind of desperate for that connection with his wife too, but then it doesn't happen, and it's crushing for him. But then is that shallow or is that like, you know what I mean? It raises another set of questions, right? So yeah, I'm really honored to have been part of this film. Like I was elated when Liz, I was surprised, really, like dumbfounded actually. I was like, what?
Yeah, I got a phone call from Sean. He was like, "What is
Why?
this, and why do you want me to do it? This is
Why?
not my wheelhouse. This is not where I live as a performer most of the time. What are you even thinking?" And I was like, "No, Sean, trust me. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna do something cool." And I'm so grateful to Sean for keeping it tight. Like I feel like it's possible with this kind of story to fall into pain and anguish and like Medea style rending of clothing and oh my god, the world is ending. And you kept it so real and so grounded, and you didn't lean into there aren't really gags, but you didn't lean into the funny of the absurd situation that they're in. And you kept us on the edge of the cliff, which I was really delighted about.
I think I just as an experiment though, like on the day I pushed the envelope a little bit. I went a little bigger than you wanted me to, and then I wanted to see what you would say, and then I'd say, okay, like I think I can afford this this much of sort of, I don't know, quote unquote exaggerated expression, if you will, and then you brought me back in. So I mean, thanks to you, Liz. Like, I mean, it was your direction to sort of like, you know, rein in whatever unnecessary business or gimmick, if you will, to really keep everything grounded and yeah, and rooted. Which brings me to I know you didn't even ask me a question, Steve. I'm just going to tell you this really quickly.
Go
And
ahead.
we can move on. The interview scene, like I was so tempted to like go friggin' big in that scene, like
in the
because
therapist
it's an intense scene, but like I felt like as an actor felt like, oh, there could be some, you know, there's room for like a little comedic relief by going a little bigger. You know, I was very tempted, but then it was a loaded scene. Like, I mean, if anyone has done like any kind of talking or therapy or like you know it's a loaded experience, right? So so yeah.
No, I appreciate that because, you know, one of the things I feel about your performance and this film is that it feels, I'm going to use the term normal, but I don't want to because of how normal is used in the film per se. And
So
but
yeah.
since we're all bearing our souls, uh, that's
yeah,
what
bring it.
like I went through a severe depression. I lost a friend. I was dealing with some
I'm
some
sorry.
major personal problems, and that was about 5 years ago. And I spent about 6 months on my couch,
Oof.
Yeah,
just done.
that's
And
tough. I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that. I mean, we've all definitely had periods where we've been struggling, and but this seeing this, I could see every aspect of our family sort of played out. Like that's why it feels very honest. Maybe that's a better word. Um, but I know I was just wondering from both of your perspective. I mean, we hear in the film it's completely normal. It's completely normal, and it's said with care, but almost seems flippant at times in the same way. I was just wondering for you both, what do you think it means to truly hear another person?
Ooh, that's a
That's a good
great question. To truly, okay, so I think one of the things that I intended with the it's completely normal stuff is I wanted to highlight the way in which we ignore each other
Mm,
when we're in crisis. It's inconvenient to sit with someone who is in a state of crisis and not be able to fix it. It's uncomfortable and it's normal. You're fine. Suck it up. Or have you tried smiling? Or, you know, just be happy. Are platitudes, but they're also kind of like you're reaching for a life preserver because you think this other person might drag you down into the water with them. So really listening to each other involved being willing to be silent and uncomfortable while someone else is in pain and not leave and not look away and just understand that it's maybe not fixable. Maybe just be in the room.
mm.
I think that's my answer. Sean, what do you got? Just trying to buy you
Well,
time to think.
I think I'll have to answer this question and then I
No
have to
worries. I
jet.
know you got to go.
Yeah, but I have two young children, and you know the blanket expression of it's okay or it's gonna be okay. Like sometimes when I hear that from people who are not close to me, it really bothers me because like I want to tell them you don't fucking know the depth of the dilemma that I'm in. Like don't just like normalize my like as if like treat you know, don't treat this as like um you know, based on assumption and you know what I mean, like that
Yeah.
blanket statement of like it's gonna be okay. Like no, maybe it's not gonna be okay, so shut the fuck up. Like just I mean, even just the people who don't really know you, you know, it really bothers me. So I try to be careful with my own kids when they're in like emotional distress. Like instead of saying it's okay or it's gonna be okay, I ask them a question: how can I help you? What will help you? Like how can we make it better? uh you know, or ask a specific question, you know, like is this what you want, or is that what's happening, as opposed to saying, oh, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay, you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm answering your question in a roundabout way, Steve, but that the constant barrage or bombardment of people, I mean, they mean well, I get it, right? But and they're trying to be helpful, but like, I mean, are they saying it's just normal, that happens to everyone? Is that for them or for this person that's going through the whatever the problem may be, you know? So um I think that the danger is when we generalize things, you know, because like even when you talk about women's health issues, like each woman has different, you know, health experiences, right? Like it could be thyroid, it could be whatever, right? So so that's why I jumped at the chance of working on this film, because it had so much to say about the current um, sort of like medical world. Just like the other day when I was driving home on a classical channel on radio, 96.3, they were talking about, they had a specialist and how women have been misdiagnosed for what they were experiencing for the last, I don't know, at least 50 years, right? And this morning they were talking about reproduction and people who are having trouble conceiving, and how it's always sort of like painted as the woman's fault, as opposed to the low sperm count in men because of all these like processed meat that we consume and all this like environmental stuff that affect us. And then like every single person's experience is like, no, it's actually the dude who has to change his lifestyle. You're okay. Like, so that bias, like it's mind-boggling, you know? So
Absolutely.
over a pint or two, Steve, I can answer your question better. That question is a very good question, but unfortunately, I gotta run and pick up my kids. So
No problem.
thank you for having me be part of this interview. I'm so sorry that it can't be as long as it needs to be. Trust me, I want to be here, but I gotta go because I get pulled in many different directions. But great to meet you. I hope to see you at some point in person. Liz, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah.
And again, thanks for having me. Okay?
Thank you so much, Sean.
Nice to see you, Sean.
Talk among yourselves. Talk.
Here's a topic.
Yeah, perfect. Bye, Sean.
Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate it.
Ciao, Steve. Bye.
Bye. And Liz, you have a few more minutes to chat?
I do, yeah, I'm all yours.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, this is what I love about this film, quite frankly, because it's such a simple premise and simple visually. Which, by the way, I thought the makeup job was fabulous. Like, honestly, it was so simple, but every little piece, it just added to it as the film's going on.
I have to give a shout out to my colorist, who in post was able to, because makeup's never going to be perfect, and my makeup artist is spectacular, Natalia Andrea Pozzo. She did a beautiful job with all the prosthetics and all the, you know, moss and so on. You can't put makeup on someone's gums, for example. So, you know, when Jane is pulling duct tape like this, we had to go in and make everything gray that wants to be pink, and the waterline of her eyes and so on. And Rita Ushakova, my colorist, who currently works at Toast and Jam, is just, they were extraordinary. Their attention to detail was extraordinary, and they brought it from like almost dead lady to, oh no, that she's actually, that's a dead lady, which was just delightful.
Yeah, it's interesting because it at times it's so gradual. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we see her getting colder, if
Mm-hmm.
you will, but it there's almost a point where you wonder how you missed it before, if you know what I'm saying. It's sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, she's far. Wait, just little by little. That's that's some great work, especially, and it works.
Oh,
It
thank
adds
you.
to the film because we have this character. I think it is Jane, right? I think the
Yeah.
character is Jane, and just little by little inside, she's dying inside, and nobody seems to really be able to, or like we sort of talked about, that there's a sense of wanting to help, but not quite to get there.
Yeah, well, and it's back to that notion of inconvenience, right? So
Right.
it's historically women's health has been treated in this way, which is, if I can solve it with a pill,
Mm.
great. Or if it's something that you can do on your time, great. Meditate, yoga, cold plunge, whatever the thing is, put a cream on your face, you're going to be fine. It's probably all in your head. It's probably anxiety. It might be hysteria. Maybe we should give you, do something to your uterus to fix your humors. Like as far back in medical history as you want to go, women's health has been treated as almost superstition. And for the audacity of a woman continuing to have a catastrophic problem, even after the pills have been offered, even after the yoga's been offered, even the problem hasn't gone away. Well, now it's just really inconvenient. How dare you? Why would you continue to have this problem, even though it's out of her control? And it's a theme that runs across the entire spectrum of medical care for women. Getting diagnosed appropriately for so-called women's issues takes years and multiple specialists and convincing doctor after doctor that you're not actually crazy. It's not psychosomatic. It's actually a structural problem, or whatever the issue is, or a thyroid problem, or whatever the thing. Um, which is, I feel like culturally there's a strong preference for, can you just be quiet and go away and die? Like, don't,
Mm.
why are you struggling so hard to live? Why are you so passionate about staying alive? Like, really, it would be better for me if you could just stop. Which is, I mean, I grant you that's a very grim view on the world, but it's certainly what it feels like sometimes. So that's part of what the thrust of this film was.
Well, and there's that moment where he's sort of asking how she feels, and you on it, like, honestly, there's a moment where you just feel like she's collapsed because she says, I feel a little bit better, and it's almost like she's done trying to explain it,
Yeah,
so I might as well just tell them what they want to hear.
yeah.
And it's such a, like, it was brought out so beautifully, this little moment. I thought it was really well done. But
That's Melanie Scrofano, man. She is a walking masterclass
Mm.
in beautiful performance. She she showed up and let me put her in all of the different ridiculous looks that I put her in. I'm trying not to spoil the end of the film. Um,
Right.
uh, and yeah, I want to just play one note of hope for the pessimistic ending of this film. And I mentioned it earlier talking to someone else. I hope that it looks a little bit like um, a transmogrification, or like a becoming the next thing. We talk about women hitting their 40s and 50s and saying, fuck it, I'm tired of trying to be correct and the right weight and the right skin and the right look and the right hair. And I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm gonna do my thing. And if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to be near me. And that, what happens at the end of the film, I intended as a visual representation of that. You don't like it, go away. This is what's happening. Kind of like, caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly situation. But we stop the film at the part where the caterpillar has to turn into goo. And then
Right.
I hope that the eventual emergence is inferred
Well, with that having been said, now
Mhm,
I know we've already talked a little bit about this being a personal film,
mhm,
but let's put you into the film for a minute. You're a
sure.
character now in your own film. What would you say or do for Jane, or what do you hope you would have done?
Like, what would Jane have needed
Well,
from a
yeah.
helpful person?
If you were a character in Jane's circle, how
Mhm.
would you have responded to Jane, or what would you
Ooh,
have hoped to have done?
I can answer that. So I had a parallel experience to this.
Mm,
If in this experience I'm Jane, and my friend did for me what I hope I would do for Jane.
okay.
My friend Stephanie Belding, who plays one of the friends in Jane's life, asked me how I was doing in 2016, and I answered her honestly, and she didn't blink.
Mm,
She stayed in the conversation with me, and this is rare. We ask each other how you're doing. Everybody's like, I'm fine, it's whatever. Blah, blah, blah. But for whatever reason on that day, I just had my honesty goggles on and I was like, no, it's just shit. Everything is bad and I don't know what to do about it. And she stayed with me. She didn't solve it. She was like, yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's shit. You want to get a coffee? And we've been like incredibly tight ever since. And I would hope that I would be able to offer that to someone in a state like Jane.
I love that. I love that. I remember one of the best responses I've ever heard. Our family was dealing with some difficult circumstances. Was somebody come up and all they said was, "There were no words."
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
it. And they just sat there with us in that moment. And it's
Mm,
hard to do. It is hard
it
to
is.
do. Like you said, all these characters in the film, they are genuine people. There's no villain in
Yeah.
this story. Um, but no, absolutely, I appreciate that, and that's powerful right there. Just that brief moment.
Yeah, well, sometimes things are just shitty,
Yeah.
and showing up for each other just means staying in the shit
Mm,
and not leaving or and not trying to. Culturally, we avoid pain,
mm,
and as people, we avoid pain. And sometimes sitting in pain is how you start to heal it. And if you can share it, share the space. Not I'm not saying offload your pain onto somebody else, but like if someone can sit with you while you're experiencing something terrible, that's all that's necessary. And people tie themselves up in knots trying to solve the problem or like be the hero or make the pain go away, whatever that they want to be action oriented.
yeah.
And it's overcomplicated. All you got to do is show up and sit down and wait, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, Liz, honestly, the film is great, and just as we wrap up,
Thank you.
what do you hope people take away from Cold?
Ooh, well, I really hope they say, gosh, this should be a feature film. That's what I really
I
hope.
could see that. Honestly, I had that thought.
It's in process. I'm working on it.
Oh wow.
And I'm trying to make that happen. Um, well, I hmm, I hope that people who watch it who've experienced this sensation of coming to pieces feel seen. Uh, and I hope people who have not felt this sensation of coming to pieces
Mm.
can imagine what it might feel like. I think that's what I want. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Honestly, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. The film is great, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you too. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thanks.